Yeah, they took out Videx because I refused to censor my films. All they wanted me to do, I mean, I went up to my solicitor's office in Bond Street, New Bond Street rather, David Offenberg, and he said, phoned up someone in the Home Office, said, hello, I've got Michael here, yes, and then he went, put the phone down, he went, yeah, so I'll have a serious talk with him, put the phone there, he said, look Mike, all they want you to do is take the two homosexual films off the market, then you can carry on as usual. You're a very rich young man. Why don't you do that? That's my advice to you. I said, what have I done? He said, well, he said, you'll be prosecuted. He said, I said, what's my chance of getting off? He said, 50-50. Anyway, because of I didn't believe in censorship, in fact I was strongly opposed to it, and I'd been forced to pay the police in the past, and it led me to be involved in a whole web of corruption which led to a hitman being put on my case, and ended up killing the same person. I was framed by corrupt police officers and falsely convicted of the crime of murder. I mean, it's not very nice being a murderer, so you know, I've written a book about it. But to get back to Videx, the taking out of Videx, I mean, I had these films in market, right? I was the first person to give the public what they wanted, uncensored video. Everyone else in the market was ripping them off. David Sohn, the Private, his boast was that he ripped people off. He said, first thing I do is throw all their checks in the bin, he said. No, all their forms in the bin, and take the checks out, put them to one side. For all their application forms for my, because you know, we don't want to give these people filth. For all their application with names that's in the bin, and when they get on to me, then they can start arguing that I'm not giving. Then I'll just send them a softcore film and say, yeah, you got it. And anyway, this was the main competition for me at the time. And my film started getting really popular, and even Rumbelow started buying them, and I thought it was going to be legalized. I kept pressing on. I thought, well, and then I went to MIPCON in Cannes on the British Trade Exhibition with Videx, and the city had two modules over there. It cost us £4,000 each, and we was a member of the British Trade delegation, and we took all this millions of pounds there. And it was all in the British papers, and when I came home, it wasn't long after that before the obscene, it was brought within the law, it was brought within the obscene, the making a video was brought under the Obscene Publications Act, whereas it wasn't before. So when I first started, I was acting within the law, I wasn't breaking any laws. So they altered the goalpost, they altered the law to stop me. There was no one else at the time making films. Just a few maybe little backstreet boys making one or two here, I don't know, or copying stuff that was already in existence. But I was the only one, the only British producer making films. And I made over 21-hour films, putting them on the market. And we went to Cannes anyway with the films, and it was a huge success there. We had a big story in the Hollywood Reporter, and all just went through the roof. Started supplying the continent, making deals with continental companies, and all sorts of things were happening. When they decided to take me out, because when they made it an article on the Obscene Publication, I still carried on publishing. Yeah, I still carried on publishing. Then it came down to take the two gay films off the market, and you can carry on as usual. But no. I wouldn't do it. I refused to do it, even though I'm not gay. I mean, everyone has gay experiences in their life, and I'm no exception. When I was 14 years of age, with a boy my own age, but, you know, I'm sympathetic to gays. I mean, they can't. People don't decide on their sexuality, say, oh, I'm gay, it's just a thing that happens to you in life, right? You're either gay or you're straight, right? You find out, might take you quite a long time in our repressive society to find out your true sexual identity. But then you find out you're gay, or you're straight, or you're what? Whatever you are. You might be a transgender, or you think you may be a woman trapped in a man's body, all sorts of things happen. You know, sex is a very wide subject, and sexuality, there's all kinds of sexual diversities, and there shouldn't be any laws against making any imagery concerning any sex act whatsoever, because that's what artists do. They don't. And they use actors and that, and they make films like I did. And the trouble with my films with the government is they were political in a way. They were sexually, highly erotic, sexually insane, but they were also satire on the upper classes. At the time that Videx was taken out, or just before that, it took about 2 years to take me out. From the beginning, they warned me. First, I was offered a licence by corrupt police officers, Scotland Yard police officers, so I refused to pay. I said it'd be legalised soon. I remember saying it. And they said, never be legalised. I said, why? I said, there's too much money in it, cunt. Anyway, they drove off, 2 very angry police officers. And anyway, I never paid, so they confiscated all my equipment. I had about £120,000 worth of filming equipment, which they took to the yard, and they wouldn't give me it back. I said, why are you holding it? Through my solicitor, David Offenbach of Bond Street. I said, why are you holding it? They said, well, doing testing to prove if it made those films. I said, look, I'll give you a statement saying it made the film. I said, my names are on the films, on the credits. I said, it's obvious who made the films, me. I said, I'm proud of those films. I'm a filmmaker, an artist. So anyway, they didn't give me them back, they just held on to these stuff. But I just went out, I was earning so much, the company, Videx, earning so much money. I was supplying the public with what they wanted, uncensored, explicit sexual imagery. And I was following the guidelines of the Williams Committee at the time, which had, because of the legalisation of pornography throughout Europe, the Williams Committee recommended it to be legalised. This was this study, the Williams Committee, the film, I forget what it actually was called now, the government name for it, the Williams Committee on Film and Video Censorship, or something like that it was called. Anyway, it became known as the Williams Committee because Professor Bernard Williams and all the experts he could find in England, he took into consideration the Nixon study on pornography in America that came to the same conclusion that it should be legalised. There was no evidence that it corrupted anybody. Yeah, as I said to you before, I'll get back to that. What one is charged with in England, there's no such word, no mention of the word pornography in the English law. It doesn't exist. It's an obscene article. One is charged under the Obscene Publications Act of producing an obscene article likely to deprave and corrupt those likely to come into contact with it, which, as we can see, is an utter nonsense, because those likely to come into contact with it are those that seek it out of their own free will. There's David Sullivan with his little spivvy suit on and slick back hair, and said, I'm giving you an offer you can't refuse. I want all your films in the private shops. So I looked at him, and I thought we was going to discuss a business deal, you know, but he went, that's what he came out with, this gangster talking. And so I said, look, I'm refusing, okay? Goodbye, and I just turned around and walked straight out. And that was it. So what he did, next minute I got a centre spread in a Star, where myself and Lindsay Honey, one of my main actors, a sales manager, and 3 or 4 of the actors, including the lead singer of the Bay City Rollers, Ian Mitchell, that's it, and he formed a band with Lindsay Honey called La Rocks. They had always had big time success in Japan. They got platinum LPs, all that. But when they come over to England, they didn't get much success in England. So I had this idea of putting Ian Mitchell in a hardcore porno film, which he agreed to do, and he was like all for sex in films, and you know, he didn't see anything wrong with it. He was the same as me, right? Thought that pornography should be legalised, whatever, for adults. So he was in this film. Pat Codd and Mark Bourignon of The Sun came along, did a piece, took photographs, did a piece, and next minute I had a centre page spread in a star. And also he started comparing different companies' films that he had, like Videx Limited, you know, soundtrack, Clear as a Bell, Private, Grit, stuff like this, you know. So anyway, Sullivan's empire was crashing down, you know, built on conning people, and mine was going up like a shooting star. And the money was pouring in, so I was just investing in making films. All the money that came in, I turned it into films, you understand? And I had a big, as I said, I made over 20 films in 2 years. I was working all the time, writing scripts, on location, making films. I'd be on location for a week making a film. And they were scripted, they had a big beginning, middle and end. They were good films. I was proud of making them. Anyway, one day, after a couple of years of trying to persuade me to take Watergate down and dial a guy off the market, they raided me. You know, and the police vans pulled up outside, and the cutter came to the front door, and he tried to come in. So I opened the door and let my dog down the stairs, an Alsatian. He was in there, so he was going, "Wah, wah, wah." But it was harmless, but you know, he was a bit like dismayed, this dog, and I wasn't answering. So I opened the window for us, I started throwing out leaflets. And I was prepared for this. I'd been expecting it. In fact, I'd made the Videx video show with the expectation of being charged and finding myself in the Old Bailey court. And then I was prepared to defend myself. I had the intention of defending myself. And that was what happened. They were raiding me under the Videx video show. There's one name on that warrant, which was the Videx video show. And one of the reasons that was picked on that film is because I deliberately lured the people into my trap. So the people that made the Protection of Children's Act, Thatcher, the one that made the Video Recordings Act, then she made the Protection of Children's Act, right, that forbid any images of any child under the age of 16 in the film. But anyway, I was a member of an atheist camp called Eureka in Kent, right, and I heard the Game for a Laugh team were coming down. There was Sarah Kennedy, you know, to take the piss out the Buddhists, you know. Oh, these are weirdos, these people, you know, make a film, put it on television, everyone sits there going, "Oh, ha, 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 oh, ha, 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 look at them, ha, 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 they're in the nude, ha, 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 ha." Anyway, I was an atheist, and when I heard they was going to come in and Game for a Laugh team, I had a full camera crew prepared, and myself, I was absolutely naked. I had a big peg belt on and a camcorder, and I started recording them, you know. And Sarah Kennedy, man, and there was a big audience. So, like, it was fun day, and the scam was like all these people turned, about 2,000 photographers, all men, not one woman, was allowed to take photographs of a naked beauty contest, and they always. And then the BBC were like that. Everyone was sweating. We were walking around no clothes on. It was great, a beautiful summer's day, and they were all sweating in their clothes, too afraid to show their nakedness of the bodies they were ashamed of. And we were filming them. I mean, I'd reversed the whole situation. The joke was now on the Game for a Laugh team, Sarah Kennedy. Anyway, I walked towards Sarah Kennedy at one part of the proceedings, and it was nearly over. She saw me approaching in naked. I'm quite well endowed, you know, and she went, "Get away from me, you maniac!" So I started filming her, and she started running off into the woods. I had all this on film, so I decided all this material, and one particular part says to the camera, "Come on, liberate yourself, take all your clothes off, we're all naked. We've seen it all before." And they wouldn't take their clothes, it was all sweaty and cold, we sweat and all that, right? So, anyway, what I noticed when these people were filming, they didn't have any branches of that in the way. They were filming directly underneath, up shots. The girls were there on the stage, and they were here with their cameras filming like that. So I don't want to give you that footage. Anyway, it didn't appear on telly, that's for sure. And anyway, when all the pervs had left, including the BBC, you know, when I got back to the my office and I had a look at some of this stuff. It was hilarious. So I decided I was making the first video show for adults called, I call it the Videx video show. It was like all different things, all different clips. You call it a compilation, but it wasn't a compilation. It was just completely different things. Cool, and the whole entire, each one had an introduction and then an end, and so it was entirely separate from one another. And I'd collected these over a period of time. And one of them was the Eureka Fun Day. Eureka, I called it, because that was the name of it, Fun Day. But of course, the authorities took the bait because of all those naked children. Oh, terrible naked children. Naked children, that's corrupting. We look at a naked child, we're going to be corrupted forever. We're going to be damned. They're the perverts because they see evil in that kind of thing. And the Videx raid came along, and I had this on the search warrant, the Videx video show. They only had one film on there, which is unusual because they usually have several films to make sure that if they get you on one, they don't get you on them all, they get you on another one, and then they won't have the name of the film on the warrant, because if you get off, then you can sell that film, and it'll be public. You can say ban the film they tried to ban, yeah, and you can sell it. They don't want you to do that. And so therefore they all came swinging through the windows one day. They climbed up ladders and they smashed their way into the Videx office with iron bars, because I refused to open the door. And I was arrested, taken to the police station, spent all night in the cells. Next morning I appeared in the magistrate's court. And I was refused bail. I had David Offenbach's brother there representing me. He said, my client, the filmmaker, blah, blah, blah. And he went, bail refused by the police on the grounds that he committed violence against us, which was a complete and utter lie. They said I squirted acid at them out the window. An utter lie. But soapy water all over it so he couldn't see in. Just for a joke, really. You know, I was amused that they was all trying to get in my offices, climbing up on ladders and all that. It was farcical. And I was on LBC radio describing it. I was phoning up all the press, any press I can get in touch, both in this country and abroad. And you know, they were entirely illegal what they did to me. You know, first of all, they tried to make our films unviable. You know, because they had to have a reason for taking us out. And what they did, they had a team of police up the office who were taking all the money, all the cash, put in their pockets, and all the checks they were sending back to the people that sent them. So in the end, after a month or so, they ran up a big debt. Well, not a big debt, it was 7,000 in the end. And then but the big problem for them, they had 20 fucking full-length films, 1-hour films. So, what could they do with these? I mean, they were worth a fortune. They cost 5,000 or 6,000 to shoot. They were worth a lot of money, these films. And what can we do? So they valued them at nothing, nil. So these films are all illegal, value nil. So, I mean, then we went broke with a ridiculously small sum of £7,000, which is mainly owed out to magazines and people who were doing printing jobs for the company, and that, like little small people who would have got paid usually at the end of the month. But they called in all the debts and they sent everyone's money back, and they created a debit in the bank deliberately. And then the Board of Trade was called in to investigate this, and then they decided there was no connection between the police raid and the company going into liquidation. So in the meantime, they didn't charge me with, oh no, they didn't charge me then. They put me in business, they didn't charge me with the Videx video show. They charged me with some films that I'd made 2 years before that. They'd taken a set of films, about several films, from my premises 2 years before that. There was 2 gay films with Dial a Guy and What a Gay Day, And that's what, when I got to, they charged me with them, so I appeared at this court, and there was a geriatric jury. I mean, I'm not kidding when I say geriatric. There was 4 men on the jury, the rest was women, and one of them was banging a walking stick on the floor. I mean, they were showing these gay films. I mean, people go to summoned as a jury. They don't ask to see films that are usually the choice of the person watching them. They say it's a duty to watch these films. I mean, probably these old women found these homosexual films horrific and terrifying, but I quite sympathised with their views. They didn't want to see them, and in normal circumstances they wouldn't be forced to see them, but then they were made to see them by the law. I mean, the law is an ass. And then they've got to decide whether that film come into contact with the person most likely to come into contact with it is corrupting. Is it going to make someone bad? Well, obviously someone who's watching a film about homosexual sex is a homosexual. It's obvious, isn't it? Most people that buy gay films are gay, or queer as they like to be called. And why shouldn't they watch them? But I mean, I didn't make those songs not with the intention of old ladies watching them, who might be shocked. So they convicted me, and the judge gave me 15 months in prison. But I'd already been in prison for some time now, because since the Videx raid had taken place, when's Wimbledon on? June, something like that. It was in June, I think. And anyway, I'd been in custody for Iran, and I didn't have long to go, so they put me in. The judge said, read out my police conviction. It's one of the, yes, and this client's been convicted of murder in 1969. It sounds really bad. So the judge says, I can't see any connection between making films and murder. He says, so I'm not going to say anything about that. If I sentence you to 15 months, 15 months imprisonment under the Obscene Publications Act, for producing several films that were found to be obscene by the jury. Have you anything to say before they take you down? I said, no, I haven't, except that I don't believe people should be sent to prison for making films, because there's such a thing called freedom of expression. And I think that's the most important thing in any democracy. Take him down.